Hi, everyone. It is Senator Christian, your parliamentarian, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation on parliamentary procedure. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. So, the procedure for making a motion is you will raise your hand on Zoom and then address Chairwoman Allen. That's how you address her, by raising your hand, and she will then recognize you. And once you are recognized, she will say, let's think. She'll say, Senator Latimer, you may now speak. And then you will say, I move that we do blah, 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 blah. So then after you say that, someone can second that motion. They will raise their hand. Chairwoman Allen will recognize them, and then they can say, I second the motion. And then if the motion comes as a recommendation from 2 or more senators, then the motion does not need a second. But usually we don't use this. Most of the time, our motions need a second so that you're able to talk about them in just like an easy way. And it's a very simple procedure. So this is an example of how you would do it with legislation. You would say, I move to vote on adopting this piece of legislation. And then the person will say, I second that motion. And then you move into the voting period. So, okay. So the chair will say, it has been moved by blank and seconded by blank that we should now vote on this piece of legislation. Is there any discussion? So if whatever is on the floor is able to be debated, then every member has the right to debate, and the chair cannot debate while presiding. So if Senator Allen wanted to debate on something, she would have to relinquish her powers and give them to Vice Chair Banks at that moment. So it's just to maintain impartiality so that whoever is the chair at that time is able to run and facilitate the vote and the discussion. And whoever proposed the motion first has the right to debate something first. So you have people on each side that are able to debate, like in favor and against. But whoever voted on the motion has to go first. I mean, whoever proposed the motion has to go first because it was their original idea. So they should voice what they have to say first. And the discussion and debate has to be related to the motion. You cannot just randomly talk about something else just because you feel like it needs to be brought up at that time. No, the discussion has to be related to what's on the floor, and then you're able to bring up another motion after the discussion is done if you would like to talk about something else. And then after the discussion is over, the chair would say, if there's no further discussion, the motion to vote on this bill, it has been moved that we will now vote on this bill. So then going into amendments, did I skip? Okay. So going into amendments, only 2 amendments can be put on something at one time. So you can have 2 primary motions to something, but a primary motion is applied to whatever the main motion is. So like I talked about, if someone proposes that we take a trip to Congress, and then someone is like, actually, I would like to amend that the Senate will also bring 5 members from each of their respective school or college so that they're able to get an experience of what this parliamentary procedure is like in a larger setting. So then you can also apply secondary motion. So that's like if someone was like, okay, now that we have an amendment to allow classmates and people from colleges to come, let's apply another amendment to say these people have to fill out an application as to why they would like to come. That's another amendment put on the original amendment of the bill. So you can have as many secondary amendments as you want, as long as there's only 2 total amendments pending at one time. And we'll always facilitate that at the meetings. And then to vote on an amendment, you have to do it in reverse order. So you will vote on the amendment for them to fill out an application. then the amendment for students to also attend that are not senators, and then you would vote on the entire bill. So you always go secondary, primary, and then the main motion. So, procedure for handling a motion, specifically votes. So, to vote, the chair will say, all in favor of those, please raise your hand. All opposed. Now you can raise your hand after the people in favor did. And then if a motion requires a 2/3 vote, we'll always ask for a raise of hands instead of the polling thing that we showed at the last meeting. We'll ask everyone to specifically do that so that it's clear who voted for who and that it's very clear to count them out. The chair always has to ask for those who oppose, because remember, parliamentary procedure allows the minority to have rights to voice their opinion, so they have to be able to do that. And then the result of the vote is stated by the chair after everyone is finished voting, and I tell her how many people have voted on each side. Senator Allen will say the motion is carried. This bill has passed if the majority votes in favor. If the majority oppose, she will say the motion is lost. This bill will not pass. And then if the vote is counted, we will always give the number of people who voted on each side. Commonly used motions are, we are almost done, everyone. A main motion, we always use main motions at every meeting. Motions to amend things, because someone might not specifically say the perfect motion the first time they state it. So as a senator, you have a chance to put an addition to that idea and make it even better by amending it. Call for the question. That's basically if things get off task, you can ask what the question is. A motion, so you can call for what the motion was that was brought up to get back on track and to limit confusion. Call for a division of the House, refer to a committee to lay on the table, withdraw a motion, rise to a point of order. That's, again, if someone is getting out of line in parliamentary procedure, we have to get everyone back in check. And then to adjourn a meeting. So these are used at the majority of Senate meetings, and then they're also used in professional settings. So if you ever want to go into anything where you're going to be sitting in a lot of like large professional meetings, definitely know these motions and definitely know them for our Senate meetings too. So some common mistakes are saying, I motion to do blah, 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 instead of saying, I move to. You yourself you cannot motion to do something. A motion is whatever you say. Like, so saying I move to is correct because you're taking the action to do something and to bring up a motion. Okay, if that makes sense. And then a lot of senators are not being specific when stating a motion, especially on motions to vote on legislation. So if again, if we're talking about the bill that is being presented to go to Congress, if you want to go to a vote on that, like, you can't just say, I move that we vote on this piece of legislation. You need to say, I move that we vote on this piece of legislation being presented to allow Senate to take a trip on October 23rd. That's more specific, and then senators know what they're voting on, so then there's no confusion. And then people also mix up point of order and point of inquiry. Point of order, again, is calling out when people make mistakes in parliamentary procedure and correcting them. And then point of inquiry is if you have a question, you're allowed to ask for clarification on something at any point. Out of order motions, these are motions you cannot do. So this is motions that conflict with bylaws or our Constitution. You cannot bring up anything that conflicts with those, because they are the governing documents and say how we have to run things. Then next, we cannot do anything that is outside of the scope of the organization. So Senate, again, cannot create policy. We can create legislation to suggest policy to HUSA exec, but it is not our job to create policy. So then we can't we can't do that. Our kind of policy basically is legislation, like bills. So you can write a bill, but you cannot write policy that's not that as defined in the Constitution. That's not what Senate does. So you can't motion to do that. And then any motion to conduct business, if quorum is not present, you can't do that. We talked about that. You can't do anything if the majority is not there, because it's not representative of the Senate body as a whole. So you have to wait until at least 50% plus one person is present. And then the only time you can motion to do anything is to recess or adjourn a meeting when quorum is not present. So some final thoughts to remember, guys, or just senators: do not get overwhelmed. Parliamentary procedure takes so much practice and patience, so you all will get it. I'm still learning. We're doing this together, so it's okay if you mess up. Just make sure you take a note of how you mess up and then study up on that in the future so that you're able to get better. And then always make it a group decision that our meetings will be conducted according to parliamentary law and that everyone is enforcing parliamentary procedure, because that's just respectful, and as senators it's our duty to do that. And then parliamentary procedure can be modified to fit the needs of our group. So saying like point of personal privilege, that's something that we like to do and that some other organizations like to do, instead of saying question of personal privilege. That's just like a small change you can make to do something that will better fit how our organization would like to do something. So if you ever have a question about how we can specifically modify parliamentary procedure for our organization, don't be afraid to ask. And then make sure you all are, and we all are working together to educate Senate members, interns, and just everyone on the rules of parliamentary procedure, because we want to effectively get things done. So just remember, like, if you see something, hear something that isn't correct, tell them, but tell them in a respectful way so that you're able to actually help them, and don't be rude. Never be rude, okay? And always, final thing to remember, this is only a brief overview of parliamentary procedure, so keep learning, keep studying up, keep asking questions, and we'll learn. We've already learned so much in 1 month, and new senators, you've made it this far. We can continue to do so much, and we will be experts on parliamentary procedure when we're done. So thank you all for listening to this, watching. I know it can be a little lengthy, a little boring, but if you have any questions, like, don't be afraid to reach out. And this is important stuff. So for you to be watching it, like, it shows that you're professional and that you're really about what you need to do, and you're about your business and what you are trying to get done in Senate. And that's our theme, power of the pen. We're trying to get things done. So knowing parliamentary procedure will help you get things done. And then you can email the Senate Gmail or my personal email if you have any questions about anything. Just click on it. Actually, I'll put it in the bio, and you can just copy that. And then refer to Robert's Rules of Order, and then the other things I'm gonna give you guys to study up on this. Like, this isn't a short overview, and there's so much more you can learn. So you can always do research on Robert's Rules of Order and more things that you can bring to the table through parliamentary procedure. And I would like to give credit to SlidesGo for these cool icons, and then the University of Arkansas and the Jamestown Leadership Development PowerPoints for helping me create this content to give to you all. So thank you all for watching. Again, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and remember to keep studying, keep learning, and that you got this. Thank you. Bye, Senators.